Baron Trump, towering above the bustling city crowd, noticed an elderly blind man struggling to cross the road while everyone else hurried past. Ignoring protests from his security team, Baron approached the man with a soft voice, offering his assistance. He gently guided him across, an act so simple yet profoundly human. The moment, captured by onlookers, quickly went viral, spreading across social media with headlines like, "A billionaire's son with a heart of gold." While the world buzzed with admiration, Baron remained unfazed by the attention, viewing his actions not as extraordinary, but as a reminder that kindness should be ordinary. After helping the elderly blind man, Baron Trump couldn't shake the memory of the encounter. As the world marveled at his act of kindness, Baron found himself reflecting deeply. Why did such a simple gesture feel so extraordinary to others? Shouldn't kindness be a natural part of everyday life? That night, as he scrolled through his phone, he came across a video of himself helping the man. Among the countless comments, one stood out. "This brought tears to my eyes. Humanity isn't lost." The words resonated with him, but they also raised a question: why was this moment so rare? Baron resolved to do more. The following morning, he asked his security team to find out who the elderly man was. Though puzzled by his determination, they complied, discovering that the man was Mr. Harold Kane, an 82-year-old widower living alone. Despite his packed schedule, Baron insisted on visiting Harold. When they met, Harold shared his story, losing his wife, his blindness, and the profound loneliness that followed. Moved to tears, Baron promised not just to help Harold, but also others like him. This encounter ignited a resolve in Baron to go beyond a one-time good deed and make a lasting impact. Baron Trump couldn't shake the image of the blind man he had helped cross the street. Driven by a nagging sense of responsibility, he tasked his team with learning more about the man. By evening, they had an answer. His name was Mr. Harold Kane, an 82-year-old widower living alone in a modest apartment. Harold had lost his sight years ago and struggled to survive on a meager pension. Despite protests from his security team about the risks and time constraints, Baron insisted on meeting Harold. When Baron arrived at Harold's apartment, the elderly man was surprised but warmly welcomed him. Harold's small home was filled with faded memories of a life once shared with his late wife. As they sat together, Baron listened intently, his imposing frame dwarfed by the weight of Harold's words. Harold spoke of his wife's death, how blindness had robbed him of independence, and how loneliness had become his constant companion. The world outside, he said, moved too quickly, often treating him as invisible. Baron was deeply moved. He hadn't just met a man, he had encountered a reflection of a broader Ishwaya world, where countless individuals like Harold suffered in silence. Harold's words revealed not just personal pain but systemic neglect. His story lingered in Baron's mind, illustrating a world that often prioritized speed and progress over compassion and connection. By the end of the visit, both Harold and Baron were teary-eyed. Harold thanked Baron for simply taking the time to listen, his frail hand gripping Baron's tightly. But for Baron, the visit was far from enough. He promised Harold that he would do more than just provide temporary assistance. Harold wouldn't just be another name in the crowd. He would be the catalyst for change. Baron left Harold's apartment with a heavy heart, but a clear resolve. That night, he stared out of his penthouse window, watching the city lights twinkle like stars. But the beauty of the scene felt hollow as he thought about how many others like Harold were invisible in the city below, struggling in silence. He realized that Harold's story was not unique, but was emblematic of a deeper societal issue. The next day, Baron made a bold decision. He announced plans to organize a community gathering for individuals who, like Harold, needed help but had no one to turn to. Despite skepticism and concerns from his team about the security risks and logistical challenges, Baron remained steadfast. To him, the gathering was not just an event, it was the beginning of a mission. Harold was speechless when he learned of Baron's plans. "You're doing all this because of me?" he asked, his voice trembling. Baron smiled warmly. "No, Harold, I'm doing this because you opened my eyes." For Baron, meeting Harold had been transformative. Harold's struggles were not isolated but part of a larger tapestry of neglect and loneliness. Barron's pledge to help Harold extended beyond the man himself. It was a commitment to challenge indifference, to inspire others, and to ensure that no one felt invisible in a world that often moved too fast to care. Barron Trump's encounter with Harold Kane became the spark for something much bigger. Determined to make a difference, Barron announced plans to host a community event gathering for those who felt unseen and unsupported. His vision was simple yet powerful: to create a space where people like Harold could connect, share their stories, and receive help. Preparations for the event began immediately. Flyers were distributed, social media buzzed, and the venue, a large community center in the heart of the city, was quickly organized. Barron's team worked tirelessly, and volunteers, including Harold, helped set up tables, chairs, food donation stations, and even a corner for free medical checkups. On the day of the event, Barron arrived early, his heart filled with anticipation and nervousness. Slowly, people began to trickle in: an elderly woman in a wheelchair, a young mother with toddlers, and a man in a worn coat with tired eyes. Each face told a story of struggle and resilience. Barron greeted everyone personally, shaking hands and offering warm smiles. As the event progressed, the energy in the room shifted. People who had arrived feeling isolated began to connect. A young man offered to repair the wheelchair of an elderly attendee. A woman shared baby clothes with a struggling mother. Conversations flowed, laughter mixed with tears, and a sense of community began to blossom. Harold, the inspiration behind it all, took the stage to address the crowd. With a voice quivering with emotion, he shared his story: how a young man had helped him cross the road when the world seemed indifferent. "Today, I stand before you because someone saw me not as a stranger, but as a human being," he said. His words moved the audience to tears and inspired hope. Barron watched, his heart swelling with emotion. He had dreamed of sparking a change, but seeing it unfold before his eyes was overwhelming. Strangers began to help one another, sharing resources and offering support. The ripple effect was undeniable. One act of kindness had grown into a wave of compassion. A middle-aged man approached Barron, his voice thick with gratitude. "I haven't felt this hopeful in years," he said. Moments like these affirmed to Barron that his efforts were making a real difference. The community event was more than a gathering, it was the start of a movement, proof that small acts of kindness could create lasting change. Barron Trump's community event opened the door to countless personal connections that deepened his understanding of the struggles people faced. Among the attendees was Lily, a shy teenager who had been battling depression after losing her parents. Harold had invited her to the event, and though she remained hesitant, she opened up to Barron. "Seeing everyone here makes me feel like I'm not alone anymore," she admitted, her eyes glistening with tears. Her words struck a chord with Barron, making him realize the power of human connection in easing invisible pain. Another encounter that left a profound impact was with Alex, a 10-year-old boy at a nearby shelter. Barron noticed Alex sitting alone in a corner, clutching a torn photo of his parents. When Barron approached and gently asked about the picture, Alex revealed he didn't know where his parents were. Moved by the boy's quiet sadness, Barron promised they would figure it out together. Barron's team dug into Alex's case and uncovered an extraordinary revelation. Alex's parents were alive, but had been separated from him due to complex circumstances. Determined to reunite the family, Barron worked tirelessly, navigating legal hurdles and making countless calls. Finally, the day came when Alex was led into a room where his parents were waiting. "Mom? Dad?" Alex whispered, tears streaming down his face as he ran into their arms. Barron stood quietly, overwhelmed by emotion, knowing he had witnessed a moment of profound love and healing. These personal connections reinforced Barron's commitment to his mission. It wasn't just about large events or grand gestures, it was about changing lives, one person at a time. For Lily, Alex, and countless others, Barron's efforts became a beacon of hope, proving that kindness and persistence could mend even the deepest wounds. Barron Trump's acts of kindness, starting with helping a blind man cross the road, had sparked a movement that captured hearts across the globe. Yet as his mission grew, so did the challenges. Critics began questioning his motives, accusing him of orchestrating a publicity stunt. While social media buzzed with admiration, it also teemed with skepticism. Headlines speculated on whether his actions were genuine, and some questioned the sincerity of a billionaire's son attempting to connect with ordinary people. Barron, though hurt by the criticism, chose not to respond publicly. Instead, he focused on the lives being changed and the hope being kindled. The backlash wasn't limited to words. As Barron expanded his efforts, his security team detected credible threats. At community events, his guards became increasingly vigilant, scanning crowds and monitoring chatter. During one such event, Barron was pulled aside mid-conversation with children. "We need to leave now," a guard said firmly. There was a credible threat to his safety. Barron hesitated, looking at the hopeful faces of the children. "I'll be back soon," he promised, his voice steady, before being whisked away. That night, as he stared out at the city lights, doubt crept in. Was he putting others at risk? Was his mission worth the dangers it brought? Despite these fears, Barron's resolve only strengthened. The next morning, he penned a heartfelt message. "This isn't about me. It's about all of us creating a world where no one feels invisible." The message went viral, inspiring a surge of support. Donations poured in, and volunteers stepped up to help expand his initiatives. Barron launched a fund to provide immediate support for individuals in crisis, ensuring people like Lily and Alex wouldn't fall through the cracks. The fund became the cornerstone of his growing movement. Barron also encouraged community-driven networks, empowering local groups to take ownership of outreach efforts. His philosophy was simple. Kindness wasn't about grand gestures, but about small, consistent actions that built a foundation of hope. Across the country, inspired individuals began hosting their own events, creating ripples of compassion that extended far beyond Barron's initial vision. Barron's personal visits continued, despite the mounting risks. One such visit was to Clara, a young girl who approached him at an event, handing him a letter from her brother, a war veteran battling PTSD. Clara's brother had written about his loneliness and fear of being forgotten. Against his security team's advice, Barron visited the veteran. Sitting with the man, Barron listened as he shared years of pain and isolation. The visit, though risky, reminded Barron why he couldn't back down. Each person he met reaffirmed his belief that kindness could heal even the deepest wounds. However, the threats against him escalated. One evening, while returning from a visit, Barron's car was forced to swerve after a loud bang shattered the silence. His guards shielded him as the car sped to safety. The incident was a stark reminder of the dangers he faced. Yet, instead of deterring him, it fueled his determination. Barron released a video the next day, addressing the public. "Kindness isn't weakness, it's our strength. Together, we can create a world where compassion triumphs over fear." His words struck a chord, inspiring even more people to take action. The ripple effect of Barron's efforts grew into a tidal wave. Harold began volunteering at a center for the blind. Lily started a program for at-risk youth, and Alex, now reunited with his parents, became an advocate for family support services. At each new event, Barron saw familiar faces, people who had once been helped, now helping others. The movement wasn't just about Barron anymore. It was about communities coming together to create lasting change. The culmination of Barron's efforts came at a massive nationwide event. Thousands gathered, including Harold, Lily, Alex, and countless others whose lives had been touched. As Barron stood on stage, he reflected on how it all began with a simple act of helping someone cross the road. "I never imagined it would grow into this," he said, his voice cracking with emotion. The crowd erupted into applause, their tears a testament to the impact of his work. After the event, a young boy approached Barron, clutching a notebook. "Can I write about you for my school project?" he asked shyly. Barron knelt down, smiling. "Of course. But remember, this isn't about mates, about what you can do to make the world better." That night, as Barron looked out at the city lights, he felt an overwhelming sense of fulfillment. The threats, criticism, and obstacles he had faced no longer loomed as burdens. Instead, they were reminders of the importance of his mission. Barron realized that the movement was no longer about him. It had become a wave of kindness, fueled by ordinary people inspired to do extraordinary things. Barron's journey had shown that a single act of compassion could ignite a chain reaction, transforming lives and challenging the indifference of a fast-paced world. His story was a testament to the power of persistence, the courage to face criticism, and the belief that kindness could indeed change the world. As the movement grew, Barron knew the work was far from over, but he was ready to continue, one act of kindness at a time.